Difference between citizenship and indigeneship. US, UK, Switzerland, Russia as a model. Now, indigeneship is based on the concept of blood and the soil. There's a German term for that. The blood and the soil. That is why you have indigeneship. Tí o bá ti sí soil and blood connection, you are not an indigene of a place. And the term indigeneship can also be synonymously used as natives. It is also synonymous with the term aborigines. The term aborigines, these are indigenous people, indigenous occupiers of a particular place. There is no place on earth, even in the Sahara Desert and the Antarctic continent, where you don't have aborigines. In the Arctic Ocean, you are going to have the Inuits that are aborigines, indigenous people of a place. So, kò síbi tí wọ́n ti ń fi piece of paper, tí wọ́n ti ń sọ pé after 10 years, you are going to become indigenous. That is the highest level of fraud. That is the highest level of madness. The Nigerian population is a politically educated population. Such conversation should never have come to our national television. But I'm sorry to say this, either by design or by intentionality, this generation of Yorubas, this generation of Nigerians have been intentionally dumped down. And I think this damage, before 1999, the student union government, SUG, I was a member, I did SUG politics when I was at the university. I've been doing this for a long time all my life, in different capacity. The student union, I used to be a socialist, Karl Marx, all the rest. The student union government, àwọn ni wọ́n fight against Abacha, wọ́n wà lára àwọn tó lé Abacha lọ. That was where you had the best, àwọn Festus Keyamo, gbogbo àwọn Sowore, ibẹ̀ ni wọ́n ti understand the politics. Ṣùgbọ́n láti 1999 to the 2025, ẹ lọ wo the quality of people at the student union government, SUG. The quality of people over there to drastically reduce. What happened? The educational curriculum was dumped down. Between 1999 and 2007. Somebody dumped the educational system. They are socially engineering the people to be just ordinary zombie citizens. Today, enough in your history, don't be things like civic education. How do you do civic education without history? How do you say you want to do National Orientation Agency? You are not doing orientation. You are brainwashing. That is why we are even having this conversation of indigeneship and citizenship. Citizenship, you can be a citizen of any geopolitical and geographical entity in the world. Citizenship can be revoked. Just like you have in Kuwait. Kuwait. Tí wọ́n gba citizenship wọn from people. Ṣé àwọn ọ̀rọ̀ ìgbà tọ́rọ̀ ISIS ṣẹlẹ̀ táwọn kan kúrò ní UK tán lọ join ISIS. They revoked many of their citizenship, their passports. Ṣùgbọ́n you cannot revoke the citizenship of an indigenous British, that is English or Welsh or Irish or Scottish. You cannot make a law and say this person is no longer an indigene of anywhere. You cannot. The only thing you revoke is citizenship. That is how you know how powerful citizenship is, indigeneship is. Now, I'm going to be using an example of the United States. The United States is a product of white secular imperialism and colonialism. It was created by the destruction of indigenous people. There were wars. Go and read about the Trail of Many Tears. The war between the Comanche Empire and the white settlers. Go and read about the Manifest Destiny. When the American government said they must expand from the Atlantic to the Pacific, from the east to the west. Orientation ni àwọn kan ní southeast. Báwọn gbọ́dọ̀ expand from the southeast to the west. Torí ẹ̀ náà fi ń lọ Ghana tó lọ ń create a kingdom. It is the Manifest Destiny. American model ni Nnamdi Azikiwe ń lò. They are not that intelligent to start something new. They are copying the template of the Manifest Destiny of the American settlers. Àwọn wá tún wá take it to another level of madness, which is trying to legislate indigeneship. It is madness. It is not done anywhere. Because it is in the blood and the soil. You do not legislate indigeneship. So what is being tried in Nigeria it does not exist anywhere under the sun. That's why we need to start having an intellectual conversation that what sort of countrymen Lani as Yoruba people, because something is fundamentally wrong. Kede Joko, Kede Lefe change the indigeneship. You after 10 years to become an indigene somewhere. Something is mentally wrong. So in the United States, the Aborigines were wiped out. The Aborigines were killed. The Aborigines were totally broken into pieces. The United States did not just steal land from the indigenous people. They also stole stolen lands from Canada and from Mexico. People don't know. America tún jí ilẹ̀ lọ́dọ̀ àwọn Canada. British Canada. America tún jí ilẹ̀, wọ́n tún jí lọ́dọ̀ àwọn Mexico. Gbogbo èmi ní California, Texas, New Mexico, Florida used to be part of Mexico. Texas. America tún dá. Because they understand the concept of power. And if you go and read about how America took Canada, how took California, how they took New Mexico, how they took Texas, how they took Hawaii, the concept is always the same. I've studied this thing for the past 10 years. And what they did is, firstly, they changed the demography. When they changed the demography, they start fighting for political control from the indigenous people. They change the demography. They will start making saying talks like, we are more than you. We have more population. And they will start fighting for the political control of that land. Once they do that, they start changing laws in order to give the settlers power over the indigenous people. That is conquest. That's exactly what we see that some blocks in Nigeria are trying to do all over Nigeria, especially in Yoruba land. Because the Yoruba land, even though we are the outright majority in our land, we have the highest number of politically illiterate people in the whole of West Africa. Highly politically illiterate society. They do not understand the prophets in their midst. They do not understand the great people in their midst. They do not understand the eggers and intellectuals in their midst. Just mobs. And that's why what some of us are fighting for, and we'll fight this battle to as long as possible. For you to say you want to be a leader within the Yoruba society, you must be an intellectual. You must be. You must be grounded in history. You must be grounded in ideology. We don't want sensationalists. Because you are going to be defeated. And even though we are fighting a just cause, you can be baited and destroyed. Israel bait Palestine about that October massacre, that massacre that happened. I think 2 years ago, or is it last year? Because it is that excuse that Israel has used to expand settlement in West Bank and totally annihilate Hezbollah and Hamas. 2/3 of Gaza is currently occupied by Israel. And Israeli settlers are already moving in to start expanding Israel and expanding Gaza. And totally obliterating any hope of any Palestinian state forever. It's gone. Forget the politics, difference in play. Because the demography has been changed. Because when if the Palestinian state is created, there will still be Jewish settlers, Jewish people in that Palestinian state that you will not be able to send out of that place. So in the United States of America, there has been a European colony for the past 300, 400 years. There are still provisions, acknowledgement of the presence of indigenous people. They call them the Red Indians. They also call them the Native Americans. They also call them the Aborigines. So you go to reserves, they are there. They give them special quota. Something like Nigeria, like federal character, so they can get admission, they can get all those things. But still, because they do not have political power in the land of their ancestors for thousands of years, many of them, they have high crime rates. It's one of the most economically backward people. Because once you lose political power, no matter what your conquerors, the pity your conquerors will give you, that is why I've told Yoruba people, we will not succumb and be looking for the mercy of our enemies. And when we also fight our battles as Yoruba people, we must not make the mistake of Hamas and make the mistake of Palestine. Palestine play into the hands of Israel, of the IDF, of Netanyahu. So when people say, oh, then what is this issue about land? Oh, why are we talking about land? Hello, Twitter kini or Facebook kini hello, can type Palestine síbẹ̀. Many of them you see them, oh Palestine. Many of them, they are supporting Palestine, but when it comes to Yoruba people defending the honor and the sanctity of Yoruba land, they start telling us that that's why you know that some of us have become intentionally insensitive, intentionally hypocritical, intentionally wicked, intentionally self-immolating, intentionally self-destructive, intentionally deceitful, intentionally self-hypocritical, intentionally treacherous to the race of their people. So in the United States, there is Indigeneship. There are Aborigines. In the American Constitution, the only place where they successfully to erase the mention of indigenous people in their constitution was Australia. And the indigenes were now begging. Few years ago, wọ́n ṣe referendum pé kán tiẹ̀ kọ sínú constitution of the presence of indigenous people in the Australian constitution. The majority white settlers in Australia voted no. Do you want that to build the future of your children? This is what Southeast politicians are planning for us. I'm speaking for the Yoruba people. The Middle Belt can speak for themselves. The South can speak for themselves. I don't give a damn. I'm speaking for the Yoruba people. Because that is my constitution. That is my constitution. That is my constituency. I read that news and I was weeping and I was crying. Because the world is not just. That is why I keep on telling people, you cannot be supporting Palestinian cause and be coming together and be saying Lagos is no man's land. You are mad. You support Palestinian cause, but when it comes to you, Nigeria, and let us remove indigenous people, you have mental problem. Because let us talk about the history of Nigeria. That's why when many of us, when anybody start telling you, are we not all the same? Nigeria is an amalgamation of ethnic nations. It is cut and join. Cut and join. You took part of the Yoruba people, you broke Yoruba people into three. One in Togo, one into four. One in Ghana, one in Togo, one in Benin Republic, one in Nigeria. You took the Hausa people, some in Cameroon, some in Niger, some in Chad. You put them into Nigeria. You took the Kanuri people, some in Chad, you put some of them in Nigeria. It's cut and join. You created a regional system. Some Yoruba people in northern region, some Yoruba people in southwestern region, some Yoruba people in midwest region. Some Ijaw people in the midwest region, some Ijaw people in the western region, some Ijaw people in the eastern region. That is cut and join. So there's nothing organic with this. So let's talk about the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is made up of 4 indigenous tribes. Maybe I'll start calling the English people tribes. Because a ti sọ̀rọ̀ for more than 15 years. Pé ẹ má pe Yorùbá ní tribe mọ́, bẹ́ẹ̀ wọn ò gbọ́. How are you going to educate somebody that's already been miseducated from university, primary school, secondary school days? So I will also start calling the English people tribes. So the United Kingdom is made up of 4 tribes, 4 ethnic nations: the English, the Scots, the Welsh, and the Irish. Àwọn ẹ̀yà mẹ́rin tó make up United Kingdom nìyẹn. Ẹ̀yà mẹ́rin tó make up United Kingdom nìyẹn. Any other person tó bá ti jẹ́ ìkan nínú àwọn ẹ̀yà mẹ́rẹ̀ẹ̀rin immigrant ni ẹ́. The only thing tó lè dì láyé ń bẹ̀ ni you can only become British. Into lè ní ojú British identity lọ. You can only become British. You can never become English. You can never become Welsh. You can never become Irish. You can never become Scots, except Olafẹ́ ọmọ wọn. Only your children with a degree of blood in them can say, I am English. I am Irish, because they have blood connection in the United Kingdom. Now, let me now go straight into history. For 800 years, the English, who are the majority and the most powerful politically and militarily, used brutal means expansion in secular colonialism to colonize that area called United Kingdom and including Ireland for more than 800 years. They killed millions, billions in order to be able to keep that empire. It was what they perfected in that area of United Kingdom and Ireland that they transferred to the rest of the world. To America, to South America, to Australia, to New Zealand, and to Africa. It was what they perfected in Europe, in that European island, ISIL. That was what they came to perfect, that was what they exported to the rest of the world. I told someone, it is what the Southeast have tried in the Southwest is what they are exporting to Ghana. Using all sorts of unscrupulous things, buying lands, installing Eze Indigo, and doing all sorts of nonsense, influencing the politics of the local people, talking down on indigenous people, talking down on the indigenous lands, talking down on indigenous something, and trying to create a colony outside the Southeast. That's what they are exporting to Ghana. It is not, I don't hate them. The only people I comment, I'm going to criticize, it is us. What the Yoruba people refuse to correct for 40 years is what the Ghanaians are correcting within 3, 4, 5 years. Because they see strange elements, strange culture, strange behavior being brought to their doorstep. What they are doing, it is not compatible to any sane society and sane civilization. That is secular colonialism. They see evil for what it is. It's evil. So when you talk about citizenship, so if you go to United Kingdom, the citizenship, that's what citizenship offers you. And there are even many things now, many questions being asked. These immigrants that are coming into United Kingdom, how are they? Do they want to be given the British citizenship? Because they are not integrating into the British system. That's why they said for you to have British ILR, permanent residence, you must speak English. Because they found out there are many people who have British passports but cannot speak English, good English. The reason why multiculturalism has failed in Europe is that instead of creating an homogeneous society, because the immigrants are integrating into the whole society, what you have is a rainbow system where the immigrants are creating parallel societies. They are creating ghettos. They are destroying the social structure of the host communities. And it is that social structure that gives peace, stability, political stability, economic prosperity that the immigrants are coming in to get. If the Yoruba social structure, if we are religious extremists, we do not have the right human resources, we do not have the right human capital, our land is not favorable, no immigrants will be rushing into Yoruba land to come and stay. So it is absolute madness to say immigrants built a place that has been the most prosperous axis in the whole of West Africa, non-stop, under different empire. If it is not the Oyo Empire, it is the Ijebu kingdoms. If it is not the Ijebu kingdoms, it is the Egba kingdoms. It is not the Egba kingdoms, it is the Awori kingdoms. For the past 1,000 years, non-stop. So it is absolute madness. And when it was the Western region, we did wonders in Western region. That is why we must not allow anybody to talk down on the greatness of your ancestors. It is intentional. Because people want to bring you down to their level so that people would not have hope for the future. So United Kingdom, English for 800 years tried to destroy ethnic identity in the United Kingdom. They tried intermarriage. They've tried intermarriage. In fact, they went to go and bring Scottish and English settlers to go and settle in Northern Ireland, in the Ulster region of Ireland, in order to change the demography. That is why Northern Ireland is not part of the current day Republic of Ireland in 2025. It was because of the history of settler colonialism that the English did in order to break the Irish spirit, because the Irish, who are largely Catholic, they were different from the English, who are largely Protestants, Anglicans. And they did not. The English saw themselves as superior to the Irish. The Irish and Irish, they are different from the English, who are Germanic, Anglo-Saxons. So when people say, oh, in Select Line, there is no tribalism, it's all lies. The United Kingdom is a tribal country. United Kingdom is built on tribalism. The question is how? What am I saying? There are 4 regions in the United Kingdom. That is why those 4 regions are operating as nations. Because they are made up of ethnic nationalities, ethnic nations, under one unified United Kingdom. That was what Nigeria should have been, as proposed by Chief Obafemi Awolowo, and what even the British started. Before Zeke and his fellow expansionists in Rossi destroyed it, because he wanted to sacrifice the peace of Nigeria for the greatness of his own people and to turn them to the master race in Nigeria. We also need to talk about Irish. So the Northern Ireland is a region on its own. The Scotland is a region on its own. Made up where that Scotland is the Scotland. You hear the word Scot and land. That is the land of the Scots. England, that is the land of the English. Northern Ireland, the land of the Northern Irish. It is so easy now. Ilẹ̀ àwọn Northern Irish. Wales, that is the land of the Welsh people, who are actually the leftover of the Aboriginals of what you call the United Kingdom. Àwọn tí wọ́n pa kù nìyẹn ló wà ní Wales. And everybody have their languages. Everybody have their custom. That's why you see in Wales, wọ́n lọ ń change orúkọ wọn páwọn ń ṣe wípé àwọn ń ṣe Wales pé Simru gangan lórúkọ kíni wọn. It is Simru. Because identity matters. How many years do many of us have? What is the lifespan of an average man or woman, a human being? If you are lucky, you spend 90 years in this treacherous world. If you are lucky. But how do you live forever? You live forever by protecting your land, your culture, your language, and your heritage. That is what the Western powers, do you think it's a fluke? You think it's a joke for the Western powers to be able to maintain and defend their land for the past 300 years and be number 1 in the world? Why do you think they get threatened when they see any power like Russia or China is trying to rise? And they start using sanctions, economic sanctions, war, as ethnic means to be on top. They are not on top because they are the most intelligent compared to the rest of the world. They are on top because they understand the ruthless nature, the ruthless agenda, the ruthless basics of self-preservation, which has been lost amongst these Yoruba race of 2025. So United Kingdom has 4 regions. based on indigenous identity. It is ethno-linguistic federalism. Ethno-linguistic federalism ti tiwa ẹ̀fún ti ń pariwo. Oh no, ni wọ́n ń ṣe ní United Kingdom. It is based on ethnic, it is based on linguistic differences. Ethnic and linguistic blocks. Oh no, fi ṣe United Kingdom. So when somebody say, it is because of tribalism, it is because of this ethnic identity that Nigeria is broke, tell them it's a lie. Why are you running to United Kingdom? United Kingdom that is built. And United Kingdom, the reason why many of you are running to United Kingdom, because United Kingdom still has an empire structure. There is still a Commonwealth, the British Commonwealth. All of you, India, Nigeria, Ghana, you are all subjects of the Queen. You are children. They are still one way or the other. We are under them. So they allow you. They are tolerating us. They are using our best brains because the empire system was set up to use the best brains, the best minds, the best bodies in their youthful, in their most powerful prime to build the empire. And when you go in there, it is when you get in there that the more you bow down to the system, the more they integrate you and you can at least move up the ladder. That is what Kemi Badenoch is doing. He is British, of Yoruba ancestry, who has declared 100% loyalty. She will even say the most profane thing. You cannot tag Kemi as a racist. If Kemi was Boris Johnson, the entire media would have been calling him racist. But Kemi can say it because Kemi is black and white skin. But she knows what she's doing because that is the politics the Indians, the Pakistanis, and the Jews are playing in British politics, in the world. Torí ẹ̀ ìwọ tó bá jẹ́ Yorùbá, kò sí nǹkan tó kẹ́ ẹ̀ pẹ̀lú àwọn protest neoliberal, black rights, black movement. Don't join all those things. Pursue Yoruba agenda the way the Jewish agenda is being pursued all over the world. That's the bitter truth. Then let's go to Switzerland. In Switzerland is the top 5 most prosperous countries in the world. There is nobody, anytime they start saying tribalism, ethnicity is the problem of Africa. One man excuses because they know most Africans are not exposed. We are politically uneducated. And we used to trauma bond with slavery history. That's why it is not good for you as an indigenous Yoruba person to be using the Black American existence, the Black American reality, as your gold standard when it comes to politics and geopolitics in the world. What has happened to us during transatlantic slavery, it's gone. Let us move on. People don't know that for close to 400 years, the Ottoman Empire was capturing Europeans. Millions of Europeans were captured and used as slavery. In fact, the first transatlantic slavery was not black slavery. It was white slavery. But they are silent on it because they do not want to be seen as weak compared to us, that we always want to talk from the position of weakness. It was in the 19th century that the European powers, the British, after then they built the most powerful naval power in the world. They came together and said, enough is enough, and they destroyed the barbaric pirates who are raiding from North Africa and to be capturing slaves in France, in Malta, in Italy, where whites were being used as slaves in the Ottoman Empire. Because the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman greatness was built on the exploitation of human labor in forms of slaves. The Russian Empire. Why did you think Russia went to take over Crimea? Because Crimea and those places that is now in Odessa, in those southern part of Ukraine, used to be where you have Ottoman bases, military outposts, that was being used as a source of slave raiding posts, where they were raiding Slavs, Hungarians, Romans, and selling them into the Ottoman Empire. Now, what was the Ottoman? They were using the men as mercenary soldiers and using the women as concubines. That is why the Turks of current day Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, the Turks of Turkey, the Turks of northern Cyprus they have Caucasian features. You look at them, they are Caucasians. But you look at the Turks of China, the Uyghurs, the Turks of some places in Kyrgyzstan, the Turks of in some places in Mongolia. When you move from the West and you go to Central Asia, you will now see people that call themselves Turkic people. They speak almost the same language, but they are looking different. One is looking like a white man from America. Another one is looking like a Chinese man, even though they have the same ethnicity. What happened? It is because during the Ottoman Empire, the Turkish aristocracy whitened their population by capturing slaves from that area of Russia, that area of Belarus, that area of Crimea, that area of southern Ukraine, that area of Hungary, that area of Romania, that area of Poland, and they were able to whiten their population. What Turkey did, what Turkey has been doing all their life since the conquest of Constantinople for the past 700 to 800 years, is that Turkey wants to become European, but with a touch of Islam. In fact, Turkey, the original name, when Sultan Mehmed conquered Constantinople, do you know what he called that empire? He called it the Sultanate of Rome, and said they are now the new Roman Empire. They wanted to be like the Romans. They wanted to be like the Roman Empire. That was why, if you observe, Turkey is part of NATO. That's part of the madness Turkey is doing. Turkey is part of NATO. Turkey is part of European Union, UEFA. They want to be Europe. But there's nothing Europe about Turkey. Turkey is supposed to be a Middle Eastern country. Ibi tó ẹ̀kan tí wọ́n lọ nìyẹn. Ibi tó ẹ̀kan tí Turkey lọ nìyẹn. Turkey is a Middle Eastern country. But Turkey has always wanted, is a Europe wannabe. Ọ̀rọ̀ Turkey àti Morocco kò yàtọ̀. Morocco also wants to be Europe at all costs. Morocco wants to be Europe at all costs. In fact, Morocco had once applied to be part of the European Union. Because nobody cares about, we are Africans, we are this. No. Because people want to join the big boys. That's the way it works in the world. It was the Russian Empire that totally destroyed and annihilated the Crimean Tatars, the Turkish mercenaries, the Janissaries in the axis of southern Ukraine, in Crimea, the Caucasus, in order to have permanent peace. That was why the Ottoman Empire could not be launching raids and be capturing hundreds of thousands of Europeans as slaves. This history, they don't talk about it. But Google it, you're going to see what I'm talking about. You are going to be shocked. that the Europeans did not stop the enslavement of white people through pity party. They fought against the Ottoman Empire and the Arab world, that we are not going to allow you to enslave us. That's why Europe will not leave Middle East alone. Lie. Because they know what the Middle East did to them for more than 1,000 years, or close to 600, 800 years, especially with the rise of Islam, the golden age of Islam, and the rise of the Ottoman Empire. This is history. So Switzerland is made up of 4 tribes with their indigenous lands. In Switzerland, we have the German-speaking part of Switzerland, the French-speaking part of Switzerland, the Italian part of Switzerland, and the Roman-speaking part of Switzerland. Onikaluku ló dẹ̀ ń ṣèjọba ẹ̀. They speak their language, they speak their culture, they speak their identity, they speak their language, practice their culture. Tẹ́ bá lọ sí Italian part of Switzerland, ẹ máa rí pizza. Wọ́n ṣe ń ṣe gbogbo ẹ̀. Ẹ lọ sí German part of Switzerland, you know you are in Germany. All of them are all proud to be Swiss. You are going to see Roger Federer. Roger Federer is going to say, I am a Swiss German. I am very sure if somebody say, I am a Nigerian Yoruba or Yoruba Nigerian, oh, it's a tribalist, because we are a politically illiterate society. So what some of us have been doing, is to intellectually, socially re-engineer the narrative, because we know what some people are doing. That is why we cannot do this heavy lifting. Ká ṣe iṣẹ́ tó le tán, kẹ́yìn kan wá máa sọ̀sọ́kúsọ lórí social media. Kẹ́ máa bá tá ń ṣe jẹ́, kẹ́ wá ní pé àní fi ọ̀rọ̀ yín lọ Olódùmarè láti wáṣẹ́ fún yín. Wọ́n ní ṣe bí Yorùbá pé gbogbo wa pátá Yorùbá. Oh no, please. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹ sún sẹ́yìn. Ẹ sún sẹ́yìn. I must say, we don't need the picture. We are just, we took mainstream Awoism, mainstream nationalism from the doldrum. In Afghanistan, we brought it to the youth. We brought it to the media with their backing and with the backing of God. There are many people in the audience, they are like mothers to me, that we told them this is what we are, 5-6 years ago, this is what we want to do. And they gave us their blessings. That's why we are here. That's why there's Yoruba conservatism. TYF brought Yoruba conservatism into social media, into media space. How I did it? With the grace of my fellow comrades here. When Yoruba Ronu became a slur, we started the Yoruba essay competition, where we were giving millions. We gave Yoruba youths, they designed a machine. We gave them money, prize money. We did it in 2023, we did it in 2024, in 2025. If that is not enough for us to be claiming Yoruba Ronu, what exactly should we do to claim it? Every Saturday we are here. We don't go to parties. We leave family gatherings. We cannot go for vacations. To be able to preach this message and to normalize Yoruba Ronu, when Yoruba Ronu was turned into a full-blown, even when we've been doing it. If that is enough, it's not enough. Abat Ogun, they started it, but we brought it back into Lifeline and redefined it with the grace of God, with the anointing of God on our lives. You think it's easy? You think our enemies that we are exposing, Ṣé ọ̀pọ̀ wọn máa ṣàṣìwá ni? You think we come here every Saturday? You think our enemies are not doing everything spiritually possible for us not to be able to come here again? What do you think we face in our personal lives, in our health? We do this heavy lifting, we do all this job, we do all these terrible, all these things that mi ò gbàdúrà fún ọmọ wa láti ṣe láti dojúkọ. Because the most dangerous struggle is the struggle of liberation of a people, especially people that their minds have been conquered. It is the most dangerous